Yo, how's it going, guys? Rudy Wade TCG back at it again with another video, and today I'm joined by Brad Brown, coming off of his first day two finish in Madison. So if you want to give a quick introduction, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Brad Brown. I just started playing about a year and a half ago, somewhere between the Burning Shadows and Crimson Invasion sets. This is my first year that I'm going for my invite. I am very close. I'm at 433. Couple more things, and then top 256 at NAIC, and we're good. We're in there. So trying, and Madison was huge and part of trying to get me there. So this has been a lot of fun this season.
Yep. All right, and you played the Reshiram Charizard deck. I'll be sure to put the deck up on screen right here.
Cool.
So yeah, let's go into a couple of the card choices. Something interesting I saw in your list was the inclusion of 2 Lugia and 1 Turtonator. Can you explain why you play these cards?
So the 2 Lugia was mainly for stall, because when stall plays against you, what they try to do is they try to lost zone your Lugia after you take a prize, and then you're unable to one-hit KO anything on the baby Hoopas. So the Hoopas now, if you prize one, or if you have to eventually use the Turtonator, you're now discarding energy. And you don't really want to be doing that because you only have so many fire crystals, and you need to be one-shotting these Hoopas. So I didn't like the Volcanion. I think that it's good in the greens version, but I think in this version you really don't want to discard that many energy. So using the Lugia, hitting for 130, only discarding one at a time, and just consistently knocking out those Hoopas gives them a lot of trouble.
And you can actually hit 120 with the first attack.
Exactly, yeah, that's the Ardent Wing. And that actually helped out a lot too, especially against other decks that play Jirachi, against Quagnag. Quagnag's not really a great matchup, but it is something that you can use there.
And you also played a 1/1 Arcanine line, really heavy on the 1 prizers here. Did you find this to be good, or did you think you would cut down on some of these attackers?
So after seeing some of the other lists, I definitely think I would cut 1 Lugia for a second EV Snorlax at the very least. The 1/1 Arcanine was huge because mainly what I was doing the entire tournament was I would hit with the Shining Lugia first, and then after the Shining Lugia goes down, I would try and have a Growlithe as I'm hitting with the Lugia, and then swing with Arcanine, and depending on what the matchup is, I would charge up either a Reshizard, an Evilax, or a second Lugia. The Turtonator itself is usually used to close games, but when we go through the matchups and everything, there's one matchup in particular where it was actually very stressful and I had to use it, so we'll get there later.
What exactly is the Turtonator's attack? I'm not 100% sure.
So the Turtonator's attack is Explosive Jet for 3 fire energy. It discards, does 50 damage for the every energy you discard that's on board. So even if it's not on the Turtonator
itself. So it's
itself,
mind blown.
Yeah, it's mind blown.
Okay.
And I was actually thinking of including a Blacephalon, because something that you could do with the Blacephalon instead of the Turtonator is once you mind blown and then you get rid of those energy, if they decide to Guzma around it and take something else out, if you only have 1 prize left, you just go mind blown, or what's the GX attack for Blacephalon? Burst. GX, and then you win the game. So it was a little risky because it was a 2 prizer, and there were a lot of situations where only having 1 prizers down was very, very key. And that helped out a lot. So I was very happy to put the Turtonator there instead.
Yeah, that's one thing about your deck that is completely different from other decks, is that you know how in some like archetypes where you can keep the board at 1 prizers to kind of make the pace of the game in your favor is really huge. So I definitely do see the merit to playing all these 1 prizers. So yeah, the next card that we're going to talk about is you play 2 Let Loose. Can you explain this?
So Let Loose, again, this is more for stall, but it helped out in other matchups too, like Baby Blacephalon, it can help you. Nagquag, it can help you, because what you do is you take a knockout, and while you're taking a knockout, you're let loosing, which means that you're taking out an attacker, or you're taking out Jirachi or something, and you're crippling their hand, which is inherently strong. It helped out in the matchup versus Pikarom. It was huge to be able to do that. To be able to Guzma and let loose in the same turn is absolutely stupid, and I think that the format really will be much healthier once Guzma and let loose are gone. But we're here now, and we have to deal with it.
Yeah, for sure. And you also opted to play one Dedenne and one Tapu Lele. Did you find this amount of support Pokemon to be too heavy that you were often starting it, or did you think that it was like spot on?
There wasn't a single game in both days that I started just Lele or just Dedenne. There were a couple times where I started like just Turtonator, just Growlithe. I don't think I ever started just the Let Loose, so I never really felt it was a problem. The thing that the Lele helps with is to, if you don't start Jirachi for some reason, you can dig with
For
the
Kiawe.
Ultra Ball, get the Kiawe. Same thing with the Dedenne. If for some reason Lele is prized, you can now Ultra Ball for the Dedenne instead, and start to dig a little bit for more cards.
Yeah, for sure. And the next card inclusion we're going to talk about is the Acrobikes. Why did you include the Acrobikes, and were they helpful?
So when I was testing the night before with Justin Bakari, we actually did a couple games without him, and one was fine because I started Jirachi, but the other I played and I did not start it, and I got thrown into a dead hand with a couple fires and I think like a Guzma or something, and I just lost the game because of it. So I wanted the added consistency because I wanted to constantly be able to dig if I needed to. And in this deck, because of the fire crystals, using the acrobike and discarding the fire doesn't always hurt because you can get them back. Um, you always have to judge what you want to get rid of when you do the acrobike based on what your hand, based on board state and things like that. But it did help the consistency in making sure that I could get the Kiawe every single turn. I think I got Kiawe turn one probably 75 to 80% of games. I didn't get to fully do the math, but that's at least what it felt like. But it still didn't feel like enough because I really wanted a fourth Jirachi. Starting Jirachi is huge for this deck to be able to try and find your supporters, try and find your nest balls, whatever you're missing in your hand that you need to get that perfect board state on turn one.
So if you could cut any card in the deck for the fourth Jirachi, what would it be?
It would probably be a switch card, but that still doesn't feel great. There are lots of inclusions that I'd love to have too. Like a fourth Kiawe would be fantastic. A fourth Nest Ball, a fourth Acrobike, and a second Field Blower are the main things that I'm looking at. But definitely the first thing that I'm changing about the list is flipping a Lugia into a second EV Snorlax, because I think that Zoroark is going to come back. As we saw, it was very, very powerful, and it was there was a lot of it in day two. And my last round, I actually lost to second to last round, I lost to a Zoro Gyarados because I just could not bench a Reshizard just because of the threat of it being there. And second EV Snorlax would have helped immensely in that matchup.
Yeah, for sure. And in your build, you decided to run Choice Band. Obviously, it really improves the Pikarom matchup having a Choice Band in your deck, but was there any other alternative reasons why you were running a Choice Band?
It actually helped with the Snorlax when they attach the dumbbells, because then just the 240 for EV Snorlax's attack for dump truck press doesn't get there, and then they can just Acerola and swing at you again and knock you out. So that would be another one that is the first thing that comes to mind. Other than that, there's not too much, but I do like the Choice Band just for the added damage if need be on something like a GX attack, where you need to KO a Zoroark, because the 200 is not going to get you there, and you need the extra 30 damage for it to hit the 210.
And you said dump truck press for 240. Sorry, what did you say that Choice Band?
So when they attach dumbbells, the Zoroark is at 250. So if you don't attach the Choice Band, it only hits 240. Then you Acerola.
Yeah, and you decided to go 2 switch 1 E-rope. So this count, it's a little different from what I've seen. Did you find the E-rope to be good, or would you rather just have a third switch?
There were situations where it was good. Mainly the reason that I had it was one game I was testing against Rukan a while ago. The Giratina was kept active if I had a switch, and that would have cost me the game. So the E-Rope getting it out of the active, and he didn't have anything to be able to free retreat with next turn, was huge. So it stalled. I was able to stall a turn for it. So it was situations like that I was looking for. I remember reading Alex Szymanski's article. It was something that he wanted in his list. So I felt comfortable leaving it in there. I'm so about trying to go back to 3-switch because the switching cards, while they're helpful, they're almost not unnecessary in this because you don't have the mill tank. And that's something I just didn't like the mill tank. And I felt like if you had the mill tank in there, you wanted to go back to 4-switch. And even maybe cut down on the escape rope too, or the escape board, because you want it to be able to just naturally do it as much as you want and heal as much as you can.
Yeah, I can definitely see that escape rope provides value, especially with Jirachi being able to search it out. All right, so that pretty much goes over all of the card inclusions. Now, the next question on the list would be, why did you decide to go Jirachi build over the Greens build?
It just felt faster, it felt stronger and more consistent in my mind. And the biggest thing was it was the least susceptible to let loose. I tried the Greens version, and every time I didn't get let loose, I was fine. I built up a giant hand, and it felt fantastic. But when I did get let loose, I went down to 4 cards, drew a 5th, and I was like, I wish I had Jirachi, or I wish I had Acrobike. I think there's still Acrobike in there anyway, but it just didn't feel great to me. And I actually saw 3 Greens versions on day 1, and I beat every single one of them. And it was mainly because of the Lugia too. Like the Volcanion not being able to hit 120 again is just something that really, really doesn't mesh with me. And I wanted to be able to hit that number very consistently with Lugia, whether it was through Argent Wing or through to second attack for 130.
Yeah, the inclusion of 2 Lugia also really, really helps against Baby Blacephalon.
Yep.
Oh, and one other thing I'm noticing about the list right now is that you decided to not include Rescue Stretcher.
So the reason for that was because there's so many attackers, you mainly get through all of them before you even need it. And when you hit it, it just felt like a dead card most of the time because you're like, I already have an attacker on board. There's no need for it. When something like Arcanine going down, it definitely hurts because then you can't charge things up, and it definitely lost me games. So it's on my mind, but I still wouldn't put it back in. Consistency cards such as additional Nest Ball, Acrobike, Kiawe, or Jirachi are priority over the Rescue Stretcher in my mind.
Yep. Okay. And can you give us some examples of some good and bad matchups that people would want to know if playing this deck?
So the 2 worst matchups are, even with the Shining Lugia, Baby Blounds is very, very difficult. And then Wheezing is also very, very difficult. Thankfully, I didn't see a Wheezing all tournament. Nagquag can be a problem too because you just can't you really can't swing with Charizard. It's just a free 3 prizes for them to take. And actually, Zoro Gyarados is a very, very bad matchup for you too. Literally, just the threat of Gyarados sitting there on the bench is incredibly terrifying. That, Persian, and Zoroark, and you have a very difficult time choosing your targets if they get set up pretty much perfectly. So those were the 3 worst matchups or 4 worst matchups that I could think of.
And what were the best matchups?
Reshizard Greens felt like the best matchup.
Yeah, I know. During day 1, you were ripping through those.
Pikarom feels like a good matchup.
Especially the end. Yeah.
Stall is essentially free with the way that I built this, and that was the biggest thing. Like, Stall was hyped up so much, and I know we were talking about it too. I was not losing to Stall. I really wasn't.
Yeah, and surprisingly, Stall didn't show up to the event.
Yeah, and actually, the Lugia helps with Zap Beast a little bit too, as well as it can help with Grand Bull, but Arlo just thrashed me.
All right. So now let's go through your matchups. So yeah, what did you play against round one? Oh yeah, you didn't play round one.
I did not play round one. I got very, very lucky. It was a no-show, so we take those. Round two, it was a RESHIZARD greens. This one was a quick 2-0. I was able to coin flip and get first. Both games I got the Kiawe off, and I was able to tap into his Reshi with the Lugia, and because I'm tapping into his Reshi first, it's much easier for me to take a knockout. He's not able to take a return KO on mine unless he gets 6 energy on it, which he wasn't able to do, and I was able to go 2-0 there. Going into round three, I somehow got bumped up to table 1, which was fun, but I was facing Pikarom. Our first game actually was incredibly long. It took probably 30 to 35 minutes, and I could have scooped earlier since I was down, but I did get down to 1 prize, and I had game in hand for next turn, and I did the old, Guzma for knockout, let loose in the same turn, but he was able to find what he needed and take that win. So that put me in a tough position. I had to rush through game 2, and game 2, my opponent made a crucial misplay, where he did not use a second Electro Power and only attacked for 260. And I actually almost missed it too. I had to have some people come help and let us both know that this was a mistake. Judges came over, rectified it, and I was able to go Outrage for 3 prizes and keep my Arcanine on the bench and use that and swing with it. He eventually scoops. We try and go to game 3. Even with the time extension, we do hit time, and I was able, and this was another situation where he was, I think, 3 prizes left going into turns, so I made sure to only put 1 prizers down enough where he wouldn't bench me out to make sure that I could still get a tie there. So I'm 201 going in, and then round 4, I hit another Reshi Greens. Unfortunately, another misplay by my opponent. He meant to attach a choice band, and before I could, make sure that this was correct, he put down a fiery flint and announced his attack. But because he announced his attack, he's in his attack stage. He can't take that back, and again, only hit for 260, which means that I can just go Outrage twice because he didn't have his Volcanion powered up on the bench, and I took 4 prizes, and that was game 2. Game 1 was more of the same against my round 2 opponent. So I was able to win that one and be 301 going into the lunch break.
Yeah, that probably feels pretty good starting out like that.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate for to see opponents do that, but it happens, and you learn from it. That's all.
And you take those.
So coming out of the lunch break, I ran into a Baby Blounds, Cody Graham, who actually got on stream, I believe. In day 2, and this one was a Jirachi based version. Unfortunately, I had some rough starts here. I believe I started Turtonator in this one, and he was able to take a quick knockout on that one. I was able to try and keep up, but even with let loosing him twice in 2 different turns, he was still a prize ahead. And I eventually had to bench GXs, and he was able to take those out pretty easily. More of the same in game 2. I was actually able to set up, but even swinging with the Lugias, he's able to take them out pretty quickly. I wasn't able to get Arcanine set up to charge it up the next turn. Same thing. Had to swing with GXs, and he takes those out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So 0-2 there. Baby Buns, like I said, is a bad matchup. Next round, I see my opponent flip over a Hoopa, and I celebrate inside for joy because this is a very, very favorable matchup for me. He was slow to go off the first start, so I don't believe that I let loose him, and I was able to knock out the Hoopa using Argent Wing, making sure I could keep the energy on there. And I think I knocked out an Oranguru after that, and he couldn't get anything else down. More of the same game 2, really not much going there. So then we move on to round 7, Zoro Persian Slowking. This is one I was a little worried about because the Slowking is a big threat. So obviously you want to swing with the Evilax. He stumbled in game 1 and had a hard time setting up. and this is where I started a lone Turtonator and had to Kiawe to it and hope that he didn't knock it out on turn 2. Thankfully, he did have the stumble. I also had Guzma in hand for the turn after. He put down Persian, and I said, Guzma up Persian, take 2 prizes. He did not have another Meowth or anything set up down, so he wasn't able to catwalk at the turn after that. And I was able to take the win there.
That's crazy.
That one was wild. The Turtonator start had me scared out of my mind for a good 2 to 3 turns. And then more of the same in game 2. This one I was able to just get the Evilax down and start swinging with it. I think I didn't start swinging with it until turn 5 or 6 after, I do the Lugia Arcanine start. And I was able to win that one 2-0. Then we come to round 8 where we face Arlo Neal, and he's playing Granbull. Granbull is a very, very bad matchup for this, even with all the baby Pokemon, because he can still just one-shot them. And it's very hard to set up multiple attackers because the Arcanine doesn't get the KO on the Granbull. It only does 130. So you have to have had like an Arcanine set up and then Guzma something like the Slugma or the Macargo. I wasn't able to take out the Cargo game 1, so he was able to very easily manipulate his hand down to 0 and swing every single turn. Game 2, I was actually able to find the Lugia and charge it up quick enough, turn 1, to Guzma then and take out the Slugma, and he did stumble a bit, but he had 2 Oranguru down, was able to keep drawing and find what he needed. Reds is huge in the deck, Viridian is huge in the deck, and it did get a lot of buffs since I played it in Virginia. So it's very, very good. So now I go into round 9, and it's a win in. So it's another RESHIZARD greens, and I win the coin toss. I go first, and I get Kiawe to the Lugia, go through Lugia, go through Arcanine, and then charge up a Reshi's. And this game, I was able to swing into his Reshi with my Arcanine, and because of that, I was able to take prizes, or take the knockout, keep my RESHIZARD fresh, and then win. Game 2, I was not so fortunate. He recognized it, and he was able to retreat into a Volcanion to swing into the Arcanine and knock it out. So I had to knock out a Volcanion with the Lugia and charge up a Reshi in the back. So he was able to then tap my Reshi first, which is very, very bad for me. And I could not finish that one, so we close out, and he wins that one.
Even with Outrage, if he hits you first?
So, yeah, he hits... No, I had to hit him first. So he has Kukui in his deck. So he just goes Choice Band Kukui, knockout. Okay. And then game 3, we have a mid-round deck check. So we're sitting there for a good 10 minutes before we get our decks back, and we go into it. It actually might have been helpful for me to kind of get the nerves off and go into it and get that time extension. And in the middle of the game, I had 2 on bench. So I had the Arcanine and I had the Reshi. So I go Welder to the Reshi to get it set for next turn, and then I accidentally attach the Reshi and I take my hand off it. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So luckily, his active Reshi already had damage on it, so I was able to use the GX to take the knockout. But I was very upset about that because using the GX there means that now I can't KO a clean one. And I have 2 prizes left to take. Thankfully, he I believe he had 2 Volcanion on board, so I was able to take those out and eventually win because he was not drawing well, and he did dead draw after I let loose him. So I was able to get into day 2 that way. Very, very stressful. Very, very good player. They were all 3 of them were very close games. But was able to lock up day 2 that way.
Yep, that sounds pretty good to me. And then day 2, round 1, what did you end up hitting?
Day 2, round 1, I hit Zapbeast. This is where the Lugias really came into play. He did overbench I think both games. and was not able to get Coco GX out when I was swinging with the RESHIZARD the first time. The second time, he was able to take it out and put me in a bad spot, and I think he started using Mew to try and set knockouts up. But because he had the energy on Mew, I was able to actually start to charge up a Lele to try and get the game after I took a single prize knockout on the Jirachi. But he did eventually get the energy off, and I was still able to get another energy onto the Lele, Guzma it up, and take out the Mew for the game. So that was a 2-0 there. The round after that, what did I face after Zap Beasts? I faced another RESHIZARD, but this one was the first Kiawe build that I had faced all game. This was Adler Pierce. Adler, I believe, won the coin toss and went first. I stumbled and was not able to get Kiawe, and he did get his Kiawe on turn 1. So he's swinging into me first. I'm unable to now take a knockout, and he's able to knock out my Reshi. I can't get any backup attackers going. It was pretty much bricking in game 1. So he's able to take it. We go to game 2. Game 2, I do get the Kiawe onto the RESHIZARD, and he Guzmas it up. Actually, no, he didn't Guzma it up. I had it active, I think. Yeah, I had it active. He brings his up and attaches with Welder, attaches again, and uses Choice Band, and hits it for 60. So now I actually have to get the GX attack to be able to do this. And in order to do that, I had to let loose Endedenne to dig to find 1 energy and find 1 fire crystal because I had 1 energy in the discard. So I was able to welder onto it and then manually attach the other one. I GX, I take out his Reshi, but he had a Jirachi down, so he was still in the game. He's able to then next turn Jirachi and Kiawe onto the benched RESHIZARD. So he Kiawe's mid-game. I can't find a Guzma because I have the RESHIZARD active, so I'm forced to then knock out the Lele with Outrage, and he's able to take it with Reshi, and because he's now got a clean Reshi, he just runs through the rest of my board. So that was a little rough there. And then the round after that, I get paired against my buddy Justin Bakari. I was not happy about this because we were both still gunning for, top 8, top 16. So one of us have to now knock the other out of contention. These 3 games were probably the hardest of the entire tournament. First round, I am able to start Jirachi, find Kiawe, and I just go hard. And I think that's really what you have to do in this matchup is you just pressure them and say, if you can't knock this Reshi out, then you're in trouble. So I Kiawe onto it. I'm able to take, I believe, 2 prizes by Guzming up a Dedenne because I was not able to take out a Pikarom at this point. He hits into me with full blitz, and then I find a Choice Band and take out the Pikarom with Flare Strike. I go down to 1 prize. He's able to Coco GX me, and then I believe I was able to. I forget exactly how I closed this out, but I was able to take 1 prize to finish it. Game 2, he just pops off. He finds everything that he can going first. He let looses me into nothing. I was able to get Kiawe, but I did not find a Reshi and I did not get any balls. I didn't get an Ultra Ball. I didn't get a Nest Ball. So I had to put it onto a Lugia. And he ends up taking that out fairly easily with Pikarom. I'm unable to get an Arcanine set up or anything set up. I think eventually I had to mid-game Kiawe 2, and I went through an Acrobike. And on the Acrobike, it was Welder and Guzma. So at the time, I had 4 energy on a RESHIZARD, but it was active. I had 2 energy on a Lugia, but it was on the bench. So if I was to take the Guzma, I could have Guzma up his Pikarom, and then retreated the Lugia, and knocked out the Pikarom. But he still had enough energy on board to Tapu Koko GX me. So I felt like the safer play was to Welder. He was able to just knock out the Reshi anyway, and it screwed me, so I scoop when we go to game 3. Game 3, he's unable to set up. He lilied, he's a Denade. He could not find a Pikarom. He had to have 2 Zeraora and a Dedenne and a Zapdos, and was swinging with the Zapdos. So I was able to outrage after a turn 1 Kiawe onto a Reshi. And then eventually one hit KO, not a Pikarom, but a Zeraora GX. And because I just got ahead in the prize race, even though he let loose me, I was still able to get ahead and win. So winning that put me 2-1 on the day. It's okay. Winning that put me 2-1 on the day. I win 1 more, and I think I secure top 32. I win 2 more. I could have bubbled it, or I win both the last 2 rounds. I could have bubbled in the top 8, or at the very least got top 16. But I hit 2 counters. I hit Zoro, Persian, Gyarados, and I hit Nagquag. So like I was saying earlier about the Gyarados, the literal presence of the Gyarados means you cannot bench a Reshi whatsoever, because it does 50 times the amount of Magikarp in discard pile for a DCE. So it can stay on there. It doesn't have to have the triple acceleration energy. And they just go Guzma, take it out, even if there's no energy on the Reshi, and that's 3 prizes. They have a 1 prize or sitting active. So you now have to swing with Evilax or the Lugia. The Lugia cannot one-hit KO the Gyarados, so you have to take it out when it's a Magikarp, but he's also got Muck, and I play the Jirachi version. So taking out the Ditto or the Muck or the Grimer was the main priority for me, because then my deck just flops like as if it was a Zapdos deck.
Yeah, and you not playing the second Evilax here must have really kicked in.
Yeah, and at the time I didn't, realize that was something that could have been done. Obviously, this was a DDG special, it seems like, and it's definitely something I like over the no choice bans. So it's something that I'm, going to work in. But game 1, Nick ends up prizing both of his Lele's, and he mysterious treasured an Ultra Ball away. So he essentially bricked for the first couple turns. I take a couple knockouts with Lugia, and I was just too far ahead for him to catch up. And then games 2 and 3 were very similar. He's able to Lele and then Lily into a very good hand, whether it's Nest Ball or to find an Elm for next turn. Elm, he just gets his Magikarps, uses them as free trade to get more cards in his hand and to get the Magikarps in the discard, and is able to get Gyarados set up either by turn 2 or 3. Game 2, he got the Muck down. I was able to Guzma up the Muck to take it out to keep myself and have a chance and not activate Catwalk. But he was able to hit into Evilax twice, once with the Choice Band, once without, and then leaving the dumbbells on to make it that I couldn't hit it. Game 3, after I lost game 2, I was able to hit into his Zoroark with the dumbbells with the Choice Band to take it out. But because he had Catwalk down and I was not able to Guzma up Catwalk, he's able to get 2 free cards with whatever he wants. He's then eventually able to take out the Evilax. I had to try and swing with Arcanine and use its second attack for 190 and a Choice Band to one-hit KO Zoroark, because I had a feeling that he got Acerola, and he did get Acerola. But it still wasn't enough, and he was able to take that pretty easily. Last 2 rounds, Nagquag just thrashed me. I tried to use Evilax. He didn't get Onyx, but he was able to 2-hit KO into it with Quagsires and just throttle me, essentially. And then the very last game of the entire tournament, what do I start? Lone Turtonator and Kiawe. And I have to Kiawe to the Turtonator, and I do 200 damage to knock out a Volcanion on turn 2. And after that, he just goes Quagsire for game. And I was like, all right, man, good game.
I mean, I guess that's what you get for doing that in day 1 and popping off because of it. But yeah. Anyways, any shout-outs you'd like to give on the way out?
Vinny DRC, Ed Valencia, Anthony Del Gooch. They have been guys in the group. We've been talking the last couple weeks. They helped me with the build. Justin Bakari, Will Jenkins. Will was huge in showing me how everything worked. Tested with me and helped me out a couple nights before. Justin helped me out with some last-minute inclusions and to make the deck more consistent. Musquad has been huge. They are fantastic. All the guys in Jersey have been amazing in helping me get to this point. And Celio's network is great too. I'm sure you know, you worked with him. Luke is amazing as well. And then last but not least, Russell Lepar, who has been my coach. Definitely recommend him if you're looking for coaching. And yeah, thank you again for having me on, dude. So shout out to you.
Yeah, no problem, man. Anyways, guys, have a good one.